Okay, so now I'm ready to put in my dates. And if you remember, this is an overview of Jewish history from 2000 BCE to 2000 CE. So I go to my text box up over here and I click on it. And then I come down over here. I like to come down over here and I make a box. I left click and I drag so that I have a box. And inside of the box, I'm going to probably put the font at 8 so that it'll show up okay. I'm going to put in 2000 BCE. And this, I'm going to actually fill the box so that it has a little bit of a background. It'll help it stand out from other things that'll be on the timeline. I'm going to put in a little bit of a gray shading on the back. I like to center my letters, my numbers and letters, so it's easier to align. And I'm going to put this so that it lines up exactly with this point on the timeline, right? Or almost exactly with this point on the timeline. I'm shifting with the arrows over here, and then I click on this and I copy and paste, and I get the same thing. Remember, I'm going until 2000 CE, so I can click inside and erase the B, and then just drag this all the way across so that it actually lines up with the last arrow, 2000 CE. And so we now have these aligned numbers. These aligned numbers. Okay. Now remember, the space in between is 100 years. So this is 2000, this is 1900, and this is 1800. And so we know that 1800 is the beginning of the biblical era. And so I could, and maybe just for now, I'm going to put this in. I'm going to put, maybe try it this way. 800. Nope, that didn't work. I'm going to open it up bigger. Do 1800, make the font a little bit smaller. And I can also, if I was really interested, I can actually turn these dates so that it ends up sort of sideways, which sometimes looks better. Certain people like this sometimes better. It's up to you. I prefer as simple as possible, as easy to read. And we've got 1800. And because of that, I'll just put the BCE over here. Maybe not. Enter BCE. Okay, whatever. You have your options. And I'm going to flip it back. It's not going to look so good flip it back. But I'll close it in. And same deal, right? I could have probably copied and pasted. I'll show you that as well, how you could have copied and pasted. Click back on here, copy, paste, and just change this number to 1800, right? And of course I know 1800 is over here because I have to go 200 years, and that means I have to go 2 spots. And I'm going to change the fill on this one, by the way. I'm going to make it red. And because it's red, I might want to change my font to make it white. That's not my font. That was my background, so I'm going to make that transparent. Here's my font. Change it to white, and it kind of pops a little bit more. So that's 1800 is right there. If I wanted to as well, and then some of the students in my other classes like to do this. They like to drop a date like this, and then they might come in with another line and drag it straight down the exact same spot, in this case, because 1800, and make something, could even make this line, maybe don't want to have it taller than the other lines, that's for later, but I'm going to also make this line red. Okay, I went to my line color and I turned it into red, and we'll make it a 2 thickness, that's where we're at. Let's make it a 3 thickness. And now you can see I've got a red line over here for 1800 BCE, and I can copy and paste because I now want to go to 450 BCE. And if you do the math, and let's pop that up over here, right? I'm there you go. I'm going from 1800 and I'm going to 450. And so that gives me 1,350 years that I need to move on my timeline. And of course, every line is worth 100 years. So that means I have to move 13.5 lines. Okay, so that's a half line. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 and a half. So I kind of want to be somewhere over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag myself over to here. Hopefully that's the spot, right? Again, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I'm going to come over here. I'm just going to use my shift key along with right up and down to move the side. I'm also going to come over here and copy this red line. And I'm going to move that over here. And this one, remember, I can always center on page vertically. Nope. To bring it down. Okay, but that's pretty much right in between, which means it would be 1800. Oh, wrong year. Now I have to change my year to 450 BC. And now I have the starting and end point of what we refer to as the biblical era. Okay, now the next thing I want to do then is a little bit, all right, follow along. I'm going to go up to shapes and I'm going to choose one of these equation shapes, and I'm actually going to choose the parenthesis thing. I like to think of this as making a face. Okay, and I'm going to drop that in there. And then I'm going to rotate it, if you notice, and it shows me the numbers 90 degrees. And I'm going to have it come down so that it's touching the top of the red line. And I'm going to drag it all the way to the next red line. And the reason why I'm doing this is because this is our biblical era. And so I'm going to change the line, text color, line color. I'm going to change the color of the line to red. And I change the thickness to 3. And what I've created now, almost, I'm going to move it down 1, is this little ellipse. Right? And right on top of it, I'm going to click and I'm going to add a text. And I'm going to write biblical era. And I like to center it. I'm going to choose a font like Carter 1. And I'm going to move this, center it kind of just on top of this era over here. And I know that this is my biblical era. Okay. I also know that, so that's step number 1. We'll pause there. The next date that we have is 150 BCE. Forgot to get rid of that 0 there. Just make sure it's centered. All right. So same deal. I'm going to copy and paste. And I have to go from 450 to 150 BCE, and that equals 300. And of course, every line is 100 years, so that means I have to move over 3 lines. But remember, we're in the middle of a line, so it's not exactly 3, so 1, 2, 3, and then the middle over here is where I want to move it. So just next to my 10 over here. If that makes sense. I might be off by 1. Right? This would be 400, 300, 200, 100. Right. And that makes my 150 right over here. I change that to a 1. And I pop it up a little just so it's aligned with the other one. I'm using my shift buttons. And same deal, I'm going to copy and paste the line. Make sure it's in the middle. Make sure it's aligned to the top. And the issue here is that I already used red, so I'm going to change this color, and I'm going to make it blue. And I'm going to click over here and I'm going to change the fill and I'm going to make it blue. And blue's our new color. And now I'm going to copy and paste again, and I'm going to go to the end of our era, which is supposed to be 200 of the common era. I mean, it's really 220 if you want to be picky about it, so let's do 220. And I have to do my math now. Now be careful on the math here, because here we're adding. We're adding 150, and we're adding that to 200. And that gets us to 350. That, again, gets divided by 100, because each one of our lines represents 100, and that gets us to 3.5 lines that we have to move over. We're already on a half line, so that's a half. 1, 2, 3. And this is the line that I want to be on. I could actually even just take this line, it looks like, and make it a blue line. It's not so thick, so you can't really see it just yet. And I'm going to move this so that it's aligned with this blue line. And I can, go back and copy this line if I want, paste it, and just kind of drop it on top of this blue line over here. Boom. And I've got my starting and end point of another era. And I'm gonna start it and endpoint it with the ellipses, whatever these things are called. But I'm also going to change the color to blue. Okay, that doesn't look so great. That side's fine. I want to drag it just a bit. Dragged it too much. There we go. And I've got another ellipse. Maybe go up a little bit so it's on the same level as the other ones. And this one is not the biblical era. This one is the Mishnaic era. And since this is Mishnaic era, I pushed enter so you had two different lines, and I'm going to do that with my biblical era as well, so that it's nice and equal level. Sorry. I'm going to change the font a little bit as well, because I see it's a pretty big font. I'm going to try 12. I'll try 11. It's going to get pretty maybe 10. It's going to get pretty crowded in here. And so I go over to my Mishnaic era, same deal. Change it to 10. And I've got my Mishnaic era. Okay. The next date that we have right after the Mishnaic era is the end of the Talmud. I'm pretty sure the date that we have for that is 600. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 200 and I'm going to subtract now 600, because they're both positive numbers, and that gets me to negative 400 or 400, and divide by 100, and that gets me to 4. So I need to move 4 lines over from here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Click on this single arrow. Maybe I have to double click on it. I'm going to choose a different color. Let's make it yellow. No. Orange. And my line's orange. I'll make it a little bit thicker so I can see it. It's there. And I'm going to take my year. I'm going to copy it and paste it. And I'm going to take my line over here and copy it and paste it. I'm going to move my line on top of the orange line. It's a good marker for me. And then I'm going to change the color of this line to orange. And I'm going to, see it's not completely aligned. Keep missing it. And, okay. And I'm going to take my number and I'm going to try to line it up to the best of my ability as well. And move it up so that it's the same level as everything else. And I'm going to turn this into orange as well. And so now I've got, it aligned over here, and I'm going to take my ellipse again, I'm going to copy it and paste it, and I'm going to make it run from right here, right from the end of the Mishnah era until there. It's not dragging it. I don't know what just tap see the arrow, drag it over, it should touch there, and I'm going to change this into orange. And now you see the next era, which is the Talmudic era. So copy and paste, move this over here so it's nice and aligned, move it up so it's aligned with the other ones as well, and we'll call it the Talmudic era, which allows